Hello and welcome back to another Pixel Game Maker tutorial. Today I'm going to show you plugin pack 4. So with that said, let's get started. Alright, so here's the next set of plugins. We have execute object action, we got get object action info, we got lock object, and then we got release lock. Alright, so basically what you do real quickly, if you've never seen a plugin episode here, you just create a new plugin like this, add plugin, and then you go to load. You'll load the plugin file that you want, and then you'll just have to rename it to whatever you want. And then boom, it will look something like this. Now I haven't updated any of these internal use settings yet. I'm just going to show you quickly what you need to do. You need to first put a common variable that is going to be a variable that no one else uses throughout your project. You're going to want to go to that variable and set it to -100. That's the first thing. Then the next thing is you're going to want to set up an object. This object is going to be one that you do not touch at all. You leave it, for the most part, general settings here. I don't know why I have a couple of these in here, but yeah, you can just leave a blank action in here. I usually would recommend doing a neutral group, and then you can just remove all of these. That's what I would generally recommend. So yeah, a neutral group. I wouldn't want this to be the player group just because it could interfere maybe with movements and stuff like that. So yeah, neutral group if you have it, remove all that stuff. And then you just want to make sure you go to basic settings and set this restore condition to none. And then you should be good to go as far as the object goes. The next thing you're going to want to do, and this is pretty crucial, these default numbers for some reason get stuck every once in a while when you load them. So just real quickly, just toggle the numbers and it will reset and make it good. So if you notice that this plugin is not able to get a hold of menu objects like it's supposed to, that's why. So if you're ever having that problem, just come here, retoggle those numbers, and it should be good to go. All right, so I've already set up these other ones. Now I want to show you real quickly this get object action info. I think this is going to be really useful, and it's going to really aid in execute object action itself. All right, so generally I have most of the stuff where you can target multiple stuff. You can do normal scene, menu scene, or both, this kind of thing. And then I basically just provide the ways to do what you can normally. So normally, well, actually not normally sometimes. In this case, execute object action, you could only execute object action of yourself, and you can select from a list. This one, I have a few different options for you. You can do it by an action ID, which is going to be similar to the list style. You're just going to have to find your own ID, but I made it really easy, so don't worry about that. You can do it by name as well. So if you know the name and it's not going to change on your action box, you can just type in the name right here. So let's just say we have a dead action. Now, don't confuse this with common actions. These are just the box actions, not common actions, which was true for the runtime action anyway. All right, and then boom, it would execute you to the dead action of the target object. So if it's of the self, it better have that. If not, nothing will happen. The game won't crash or anything, but it just better have that. You could also do the parent. So if your parent has, that action, you could try for all objects, and if any of them have that action, they will go to it. If not, then it will just skip to the next one. So that's kind of a nice blanket. You could just have an action for all objects, and you just put that action in the objects that you want to be affected. And then we also have just the default action. If you do the default action, you don't have to do anything. Now there is a caveat for the default action. There's no rhyme or reason how they do the IDs in the back end. So if you want to signify your default action, you just have to put default in the action. So let me show you that real quick. So in the player here, let's just say that this is the default. I would say default and then wait. And this doesn't matter how you could have default, wait. You could have, all right, so my video quit recording on me, but let's continue. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this plugin here, and we're going to go to right here to get object action info, see a little bit how it works. So we have object self right here, and we're just going to show that you can get it by the current action. This is where you're going to store the value. So I'm just going to use the self object action. And remember, this is most likely going to be happening from another object, maybe from this object as well, because now you can use one action to branch to any sort of execute object action you want, depending on a variable value, which is really nice. And so this is all that we need to get the action value. So we can just click on playtest here real quick. And let's look at the player. And the variable value is -100 to start. When I hit attack, it is now 3. All right. So if I click on by name, and if I click and I use attack here, it should also be 3. Yep, so it's 3. And now just let's get the default one, and it should be 1. Normally, your starting action will be 1, but how often you guys change your default actions? I know I do a lot, so let's get that one, and boom, it's 1. Now, we could also get these through the show log. If you go to any plugin, you can click on the show log down here. And then what you can do here is you can bring it up, and you can click on clear, and you can click on another action. You have to be off the action and clicking onto another action, and clicking onto it, yeah. And if you go down here, you'd have to find it. They're not always easy to find, but it's right here, update context menu 01. So that the second one, these are common actions. These are action boxes. So we're on action box 1. All right, so if we clear this out, click on attack, you can see that this one is 3, which is what that ID was giving me by the name and by the current action, because it was in this action when we called it. All right. And so this is one way to get it, but now you don't really have to, because you're using get object action info, and you can do it during runtime, which is awesome. So I have this dead action here, just does nothing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get by name. I'm going to get the dead action right here, store it in the variable. And then I'm going to use execute object action. I'm going to do it by action ID. If I leave it at 0, then I'm using variable. And I'm going to say, I'm going to use this variable right here. I hit OK. And when I press it, boom, we're in the dead action. Right there, we're in the dead action. And so this is going to be really useful. It's going to allow some of your mechanics to just down to one action instead of multiple actions with multiple links going there. And then it's also going to allow you to use this from other runtime actions, or other objects, which is insane. Even menu objects. This was one of the biggest things that was hard to do, was to communicate execute object action. You couldn't do it between menu objects and scene objects. Now you can. Now here's something extra I'll just go over real quick. Maybe someone doesn't know how to get like group IDs. You can go to the group management right here, and you can just see this as a list of 0, 1, 2, 3. And when you reorder them, I'm pretty sure it reorders the array that they're in. So you can always just look down the list 0, 1, 2, 3 and count from there. Just start at 0 with player group. Now, if there's another easier method too, for me anyway, you can go to show log here. You can just move this right here. You can click on, just go release lock, get the group that you want. Let's just say player group 2 here. You can click clear and then double click into release lock, and you can see that this is object group number 2. All right. So that's another way to get the group ID. And matter of fact, this is a way to get other IDs as well. So for instance, if you have one with connection point, now, just so you know, I'm working on something that will get you connection point values easier than this. But this is good to know anyway. So let's just say that we want to know the connection point ID of this. You can click OK on here. Whoops, I closed it accidentally here. And then let's clear it, click into that, and we can scroll down here and see that our connect ID is 4. So that is how you can get these IDs. So yeah, I hope that this video was helpful. If you have any questions, comments below, Steam Forums Discord, we'll get you figured out. That said, I'll see you at the next video.